Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first ever WITAREA meeting. It's time to start. First of all, I think you have seen this slide several times during this week, but if you haven't, please take a moment to read and understand it. If you have any question, please reach in the chairs and anyone. Note really well. We are kind and respectful to each other, so please also acknowledge this. This session is being recorded. Some meeting tips here. Yeah, you probably also have seen this several times by now. Some resources, links for this session or this meeting. And let's go with the agenda. So first of all, we're going to have around half an hour of introduction. This session is recorded. I already covered that. No, well, please take a moment to log into Mythico, even if you're in the room, so that you're able to get into the queue and your presence is recorded. Note takers, we have Magnus. Thank you very much. There's going to be a WIT overview and state of the area, and then we're going to talk about the review teams and directorate and what's happening to those. I have added a pointer to a presentation that I made to the TSV area last IETF meeting. I'm not going to repeat it here, but it's a presentation of the old art working groups that have now moved to WIT. So if you're curious about those, please go and take a look later. And we're going to have the same equivalent presentation from Martin today about the transport groups that are now in WIT. Yeah.
Martin, do you get the honor to do that because he's the one of the last transport lady?
Yes, and then we're going to have some open mic at the end. So does anyone want to bash this agenda? Any changes to the agenda? If not, we can start. Okay, so this is a reminder of what happened. This is a new area, web and internet transport for WIT. So in art, we had a number of working groups that were also security, art and web art related, and this got split. So the security related working groups went to security area, art working groups stayed in art, and then there is web art that went to WIT. And in transport, there was some transport and other areas related working groups that got also split out, and we created WIT. Yeah, and this is the list of working groups that are now part of WIT. RTC Web has a star because it is soon gonna close. They're concluding their work, so they're part of WIT, but they're staying with the responsibility Murray, and they will be closing down soon. This slide is an update to the documents that are part of WIT now since the last IETF meeting. So we have 5 drafts that are new to the RFC editor's queue. And also we have 4 RFC that have been published since IETF 118. I think I captured all of them, but I might have missed any. So, but congratulations to the working groups for these drafts and these RFCs.
Jonathan, I think there's also frame marking and AVT core, which is marked as AVTX because it's ancient. So there was one that's been lingering since like 2017, which we finally got to the RFC editor.
So, okay, so that went to the
yeah,
RFC
so that should be on the list there.
Okay,
and that cleared 2 other documents out of like 7 years of misref. So
okay, yeah, I didn't mark those that changed status in the RFC editor, but those are, yeah, of course, that's great too. Okay, this is a short slide of updates for the working groups. So first of all, I wanted to thank chairs of the working groups who have provided some short update to their working groups in the WITAREA mailing list. These updates are linked from the name of the working groups here, so you can see those that have link. You can go and check their update. Thank you very much. I think those were really helpful, and hopefully others agree with me and we can continue this. And if your working group hasn't sent an update, or your chairs haven't sent an update, but you think that it would be good to do so, please do it anyway, even if they're not linked here. Thank you. So going quickly through this, AVT core will have an AD change. This will go to the head. We have one document that passed working group last call, got some comments, and then the other documents are progressing. CDNI has 2 documents in working group last call and is also discussing adoption on other documents. Core has 19 active drafts, and it had a very packed agenda this IETF meeting. Selected documents are listed here with core conf, constraint resource identifiers, key updates for OSCore and OSCore capable proxies. HTTP API has this authentication link draft that has requested early SEC review. Also 7 working group documents being updated and discussed on Friday. HTTP BIS is progressing work. 9 working group documents that are discussed at this IETF, but it's also new proposals such as HTTP 3 on streams and reverse HTTP tunnels, and is also meeting tomorrow, I believe. Mock has an AD change, so this will also go to the head, and a chair change, and has just adopted a catalog format draft to be posted soon. RTC Web, as I said, has 1 document in Auth 48, and after that will conclude. Web Trans is progressing. Documents are close to working group last call. And Wish has the draft Wish WIP in IETF last call, and also scheduled for telechat, I believe. Or maybe not yet. But yeah, last call ending soon.
Okay, so for mock, on the previous slide, we have Martin Duke taking the chair role, and Ted Hardy is stepping down. This was pre-planned, not like just I came and did the thing. So next, so hello WITAREA from transport side. So now we have CCWG working group. That's the congestion control working group. We had a very good discussion today. They are working on 5033Bs. That's basically your guideline for defining or testing or deploying internet. When you're designing congestion control for internet, what you should do. The work is almost done. And then the next thing is to start the chart discussion on, like, is there any candidate congestion control algorithm that should be published, and that needs a rechartering. So this has started discussing that one. Mask, I think the only thing I add here is like connect Ethernet, reach. It's like in progress, it's done. And so basically we had a good discussion on that one. We need to see like how it goes. It needs more eyes on it, so to say. NFSv4, we have one document approved, one document sent back to the working group because there was some response, non-response, I would say, on the how to progress. So now the working group would like to look at it and maybe have a new authors or editors to actually progress the document. Quick, I think Quick has been progressing good. Reliable streams reset, that went for the last call. Quick progressing slowly, but I could say like Now we have made good decisions in this IETF 119, so it's good. TAPS is closing soon. We have one document, interface document that went for the second last call, and this is really good now. I think we should progress. TCPM, accurate ACN, waiting for write-up, it will go forward. TSBWG, we had a good discussion about DTLS over HTTP. We need to make some decisions. Other SDO is waiting on our decision what to do. But this needs some further investigation of like, due to it has some IPR open source issues. And then there was some discussion about media metadata sending to the network. So that's one thing perhaps we need to actually talk with other working group related to media to make some progress. So that was it from the transport side of WIT. Okay. TSB art review team, that's the TSB used to have. We will keep it as it is in WITAREA. The team is a good set of experts that looks into your documents or our documents and gives some reviews that's very valuable to us for progressing the document. As I said, it will work as it was in the TSB area. So we'll just maintain it under WIT area. We have 14 reviews. Thanks for all the reviewers. And we have a new member to the TSB Art, Marcus. Welcome. Next slide.
And in WIT, we also have an HTTP directorate. There is a link there. Yeah, the directorate reviews the documents for how the HTTP protocol is used to assure these things. The lead is Mark. Mark assigns reviews to our 6 active reviewers, and it's been created fairly recently in December 2022. And it has already done 16 reviews so far, 6 since IETF 118. So there is some triage that is done by Mark of IETF last call documents. And he also, I think, scans for version 00 of documents to see if any of those need to be reviewed. And we want to really encourage early reviews. So please, as ADs and chairs, if you see that your draft could benefit from a HTTP DIR review, please go ahead and request it. That's important, so that we can catch any issue early and fix it, hopefully. So thank you very much to the HTTP DIR, to the reviewers, and to Mark. Oh, and I should say that, yes, this is staying unchanged as it was in art. So, so yeah, now soon you're going to see a presentation by Martin of the transport working groups, and these are the pointers to the equivalent presentation that I did last time and for the art working groups. And yeah, I'm obviously not going to repeat that. Everything is there, recordings and slides. And yeah, I think that's you, Martin.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Martin Duke. Many of you probably know that I did such a great job running the transport area that it no longer exists. So yeah, so as Francesca hinted, like my goal right now is to kind of introduce you to some of your new family. For those of you coming from the art side of the house, I'll give you a quick elevator pitch about each of the working groups coming over from transport. And thanks to excellent planning on our parts, you cannot actually attend any of these meetings at Brisbane because they're all done except for one, which I'll point out. But you know, just for your information, you can start looking at documents, joining lists, and then plan to attend in Vancouver if it interests you. Next slide, please. Sure, thank you. Okay, the first is Congestion Control Working Group. There is a document called RFC 5033 that sets the standards for standardizing congestion controls. It was written for a very different era in how congestion controls were developed and advanced and and prepared for this kind of thing. And the bottom line is TLDR, it's too hard to do this. They tried to standardize Cubic about a year ago, which has been the Linux default for like 15 years. And it was very, very painful. So we said, this is not how we should do this. So the first deliverable for CCWG was to fix 5033 to update it. And that is just about done. We should be delivering that to the AD hopefully in the next couple months. And then the hope for this is to then progress it to, given this new framework for standardized congestion controls, to actually start standardizing some congestion controls. One way in which the old way is obsolete is just that we had various entities, hyperscalers and other types, deploying stuff globally without really a whole lot of IETF review because the review process was so cumbersome. And I think we're already seeing a lot of interest in that stuff actually coming home to the IETF and getting properly written up, which has some advantages for everybody. So they're different. I mean, we'll see. There's going to be rechartering here pretty soon. We'll see what exactly decide to adopt. You can see some candidates there. Many of you probably heard of BBR if you're at all adjacent to this space. And also, that group is certainly open for BCPs and other sort of general advice. We'll see what comes in that space and what people want to do. Mask. There are some mask enthusiasts in the room, I believe. Quick has something in it called datagrams. So Quick is basically TCP service guarantees at the very highest level. So it doesn't have unreliable things natively, but there's this extension called datagrams, and that allows you to provide UDP-like service guarantees to application traffic. And so the basic deal with Mask is you're taking HTTP Connect, which most of you are probably familiar with, and extending it beyond TCP to carry other things, mostly in datagrams. So UDP, which is done, and by extension, Quick over UDP. IP, which is done. The listen side of UDP, which is not done. Quick, but skipping some of the overhead of actually explicitly having UDP. And finally, and most recently, and hot off the press is Ethernet. So many people like to joke that we're then going to go and do like 5G and carrier pigeon and whatever else over HTTP Connect. I hope I'm not giving away the plot, but in theory, this is one day going to end once we've done everything we need to do. Okay, so why? Just some use cases for this. One is privacy proxy, where you have a client connecting to a target and it wants to obscure its identity. It opens a HTTP3 connection, an HTTP3 connection using Connect. Could be another version of HTTP, but that's a bad idea. And then then there's an ultimate quick connect or Quick or other UDP connection to a target that is carried encrypted in the tunnel to the proxy, and the proxy kind of decapsulates that and passes it on to the target. A second use case is performance enhancing proxies. In the transport area, when you say performance enhancing proxies, you will get a fairly diverse set of opinions and epithets. But in the TCP world, you split it. You can very easily split a connection because it's no way authenticated. And for various extreme length technologies like satellite or certain mobile use cases, these are somewhat popular because you can run a very special congestion control for that very special link type, and then do something more normal for the connection over the wider internet. Can't really do that in Quick because Quick is an authenticated transport. But using Mask, if the client explicitly consents to do it, it could connect to the Mask proxy. That outer connection can run a very special congestion control, and then the inner encapsulated thing would be ready for the normal internet. And then finally, VPN, which I mean, we all know VPNs are. Basically, you can have two Mask proxies on either end of the open internet, and then have a private corporate network or whatever with a bunch of hosts, and then just use this proxy to tunnel stuff over the internet. That didn't work.
Yeah, mission accomplished.
Did I break it?
No.
Okay, I've been breaking a lot of these. Okay, NFSv4. NFSv4 stands for Network File System version 4. There are 3 minor versions, which I guess are all deployed, but I don't know for sure because I never had this working group. So they maintain that and remote direct memory access, or RDMA. this is a pretty insular group that's been doing their thing for a long time. They're currently refreshing 4.1. They're doing some internationalization stuff and doing RPC over RDMA. Ask Zahid if you have more questions about that, because I don't know. Quick, I think you've heard of this. It's new, doesn't really apply anymore. It's a reliable transport. I already talked about it a little bit. These are the TLDR, those are like the 5 things. I would say these are the 5 reasons we did it and replaced TCP and SCTP. I'll note extensibility because that's like the IETF thing. TCP runs into the very serious problem because of all these middle boxes and all the things that are not encrypted and invisible to the network, that there's a lot of enforcement that tries to be helpful that is not actually helpful. It makes it very, very difficult to innovate. And so from an IETF perspective, one of the most exciting things is the extensibility of QUIC. It's all in the encrypted envelope, almost all of it. And so it's very easy to add new features and do new innovative things. Okay, so that QUIC has been done for a while. What's new? They're currently working on standardized logging formats. I think we all know what TCP dump is. There's a large ecosystem of tools based on using packet captures to analyze things like congestion controls that kind of the congestion control nerds can look at these graphs and understand what's happening. That's much harder, of course, with encrypted packets. So this logging format called QLog creates sounds like a common format to record events and so on. And then they're building an ecosystem of tools around that to visualize connections, understand what's happening. And by the way, that's not just a quick thing. This generalized format can be applied to other protocols, including HTTP3, which is being worked on in the QUIC working group right now, or the logging format for it, rather. And we're starting to see a little bit of other working groups start to build a QLog formats for their protocols, much as you might do for like Yang or something. It doesn't all have to happen in QUIC. Just the normal like protocol performance tweaks that you'll do anywhere. Another big thing going on is multipath, and there's a little picture of multipath on the right. Multipath is a weird term, which means different things in different contexts. It used to mean having failover, where you have a second path, and when the first path goes south, you switch to that one. QUIC has had that from the beginning. It's called address migration. The other meaning of multipath is I'm actually sending paths or traffic concurrently on multiple paths in bulk. That sounds very appealing. It is much trickier than it sounds to do correctly, and that is something that this work group is working on. Okay, TAPS, as I think someone said, is about to close. But the basic idea here is that in the old days we had like the POSIX sockets API, and that was great for doing transport stuff. But now, well, you always had to do DNS resolution separately in the application, called directly to the application. That was not great. And now the idea of a transport substrate is a little bit broader. I mean, I think hopefully a lot of things go over TLS instead of go directly over the socket. At the risk of Mark Nottingham shooting me with a rifle from over there, like HTTP is often effectively a transport for a lot of things. And so, and a lot of these things happen in user space. So when you're building applications on top of these other like upper layer algorithms, you end up having to marry that algorithm. Like you might, implement it to run on top of OpenSSL, and you better hope that OpenSSL does what you want to do in terms of supporting new features. So the idea of TAPS is kind of having a more generic API that abstracts all of this stuff. We had a lot of smart people work on it. It's been realized in Apple's network framework. And that should hopefully make things more portable between protocol implementations, and also make it easier to innovate by adding new. If you implement an application of the Transport Services API and new protocols come out, it should be pretty seamless to switch to the new protocol and the new features rather than having to re-implement a whole new API. And that should be closing soon. All right, I already talked about this slide, so I'm going to skip. All right, TCP/M, I think we all know what TCP is and what TCP maintenance means. As I mentioned earlier, extensions are hard because TCP is unprotected. They're still working on some performance tweaks. There are really annoying legacy things about TCP, like you can have only 40 bytes of options. Now that we have things like encrypted cookies in options, that's not really big enough. And then lastly, the tail end of L4S support, which I'll talk about in a moment. Okay, L4S. So this is something that the core documents for this were published in TSVWG I think a year ago or so. This is the latest flavor of explicit congestion notification, but the basic idea here is that if you use a certain bit in the IP header, you go into a different queue with a much shallower buffer, and the ECN mark is interpreted differently than it was in the past to say just back off a little bit rather than a lot. And that allows you to sort of fine tune a connection to operate with very low queue occupancy, and you should get much, much lower latency across the path. This is already getting, this is starting to get some legs. The TCPM work here is to report the marks, to have more rich reporting of the received marks back to the sender, which requires new TCP options and so on. And that work is not quite done, even though a lot of the L4S stuff is done, and and Quick already supported it natively because we knew it was coming. Another thing, then there's TSVWG. One thing their L4S stuff is almost done, but they are responsible for SCTP, which is a quite old protocol at this point, though not as old as TCP. It really doesn't get through middle boxes for the reasons that middle boxes do their thing, but it has two use cases that are pretty prevalent. Number one, it is the data channel for WebRTC when it's put over DTLS. And of course, DTLS solves the problem that middle boxes block a protocol number. It is also used in service provider signaling networks, which of course don't have some of the middle box issues that other places do. So, like some people sometimes ask me, like, we have Quick now, why is SCTP still around? Well, that's why. It may be that WebRTC and other media options like evolve past this. It may eventually, as you go from 5G to 6G or some other G, like maybe this will fall off the table. But as it is, it's still very much out there in the internet. And right now, there's an authorization chunk in SCTP, and it is broken, so we're fixing it. It seemed pretty important. And then there's some other, like a performance optimization who allows you to checksum when there's other integrity protection, and then finally DTLS over SCTP, which is the opposite of SCTP over DTLS, and that is used in service provider networks. And then again, TSVWG is kind of the grab bag for transports that don't have enough traffic to have their own working group anymore. UDP is pretty simple, so it also fits in that category. There's a quite intriguing option that is maybe a little that some people might say is too clever, called UDP options, because there's a UDP header field, a UDP payload length field, and an IP length field, which are kind of redundant. And if they're different, you could put some stuff in there, and that's what that's doing. Feel free to send email about that. And then DCCP is a datagram protocol that has congestion control, unlike UDP, and somebody has a multipath solution of that, which I believe has some application in service provider networks. And then finally, some follow-up to the basic L4S work they already did. Operational guidance, some documents about how to mark ECN correctly when it's in a tunnel, and then a DSCP code point for the same queue building behavior that you would otherwise get with L4S. Anyone have any questions about any of that? All right. Enjoy your dinner.
Thanks, Martin. That was a very good presentation, and thanks for your service to the TSV.
Okay, now we are in the open mic part of the session. Is there any questions about the new area, or how are we gonna run things, or anything related to anything we talked about? Everything is crystal clear. I'm waiting. If not, I think that we can close the session a little bit early, so you can have some time back. Welcome to WIT, and I'm really glad to see you all here. And we'll see you in Vancouver.
Yes, welcome to WIT. Thank you. Okay, so